So today I'm going to be making some glitter Christmas vases. First I'll be making the candy cane one, and then I'll be making the Santa one. I'll timestamp in the description when I'll be starting the Santa one, so you can skip to it if you want. So let's get to it. For the candy cane vase, I started off with this long, slender one that I had laying around the house. I think I got it from the dollar store. I placed a piece of Scotch tape on the bottom and then just made it on an angle all the way up to the top of the vase. I used a second piece and placed it about 1.5 inches away from the other one and just followed it up the vase. One thing I would have changed would have been to maybe measure the diameter and space out the tape accordingly, because I did have to reposition it a few times. Luckily, it was easy enough to do. After it was all taped up, I used a little matte Mod Podge and just brushed it in sections and sprinkled on some red glitter, making sure to shake it off onto something I could transfer the fallen off glitter back into the jar. Now, when you're working with tape, glitter, and Mod Podge, you have to make sure you're pulling off the tape as you finish each section. So after you do 2, pull off the one in between, because as it dries, you risk pulling off some of the glitter and it won't be a straight line. So here's what it looked like after the first round of glitter had dried. Now I needed a second layer of glitter, so I could have taped it off again, but that takes too much work, so I just freehanded it with a little bit of Mod Podge. I made sure just to get right to the edge so there still was a clean line, and then just toss some more glitter down. After I did a second layer over all of them and let it dry, I went over it with a glossy Mod Podge to seal it. When you're doing the last layer of the Mod Podge, you want to make sure that you're just brushing gently over the glitter, not pushing too hard. Once everything was all dry, I used a wet and dry paper towel to kind of clean up around the edges of the glass and to get all the loose glitter off that was around the clear glass. So you could just leave it like this, but I wanted that candy cane effect, so I taped off the red glitter with some painter's tape. It worked better than the Scotch tape. I found that the Scotch tape really wasn't sticking to the glitter. Once I did all that, I brushed on some more Mod Podge and then sprinkled on some white glitter. Since I had sealed the red glitter already, if any of the white got onto the red, it was easy just to shake it off. And then again, I just used some glossy Mod Podge to seal in the white glitter. I had these flat pearls laying around, so I cut some of them off and then glued them around the edges of the top and the bottom. And then I just tossed in some little fairy lights for fun, and it was all done. Let me know what you think, how it turned out, or if you try this yourself. For the Santa vase, I had this hourglass vase laying around. I also used some chunky red glitter, of course some matte and glossy Mod Podge, some fairy lights, some white fur ribbon, some gold jewelry wire, and this black faux leather piece. I started by brushing some matte Mod Podge in sections and shaking on the red glitter, making sure to work in smaller sections so that the Mod Podge wouldn't dry before the glitter hit it. After the first layer was done, I brushed on some more Mod Podge and then glittered it up again. You don't really have to work as quick with the second layer because the Mod Podge won't dry as quickly on the glitter versus the glass. Once everything was dried, I sealed it in with a thin layer of glossy Mod Podge, making sure to gently glide the brush over the glitter. You don't want any glitter coming off, and you don't want big chunks of Mod Podge because it won't dry nicely. So now I took some white fur in ribbon form that I think I got from the dollar store. I measured around the top of the vase and cut a piece. You will see later on the struggle of not measuring things properly and taking angles into effect. I used a glue gun to slightly fold over the edges to give it more of a finished look. At first I used crazy glue and it just made the fur hard, so the hot glue worked better. This is what it looked like when it was all done. Now, I could have used hot glue for this, but hot glue and glass don't have a good stick, so I mixed up a 2-part epoxy glue. I put a thin layer on one side and tried very hard not to touch it as I placed it on the inside. So now I started to realize the inside diameter was smaller than the outside, and I should have maybe cut the fur on an angle. But you can see in real time the struggles, and luckily you can't see my face because there was a lot of sadness thinking that everything I had just done was all for nothing. But I will figure out this dilemma after. I glued the rest around with some more epoxy, and good thing I used the epoxy glue because I had to give it a few good pulls, and if I had used the hot glue it would have ripped it right off. Now I had this little spot I had to fill, so I took the piece that I had cut off to make it the inside fit and altered it to fit the gap. I tried to seamlessly put it into place, and surprisingly it worked. Now it was time to make Santa's belt. I cut a strip of the faux leather, and then I bent this gold jewelry wire to look like a buckle. Luckily this stuff is super easy to bend, so I was able to manipulate it with my hands. And then I just crazy glued it onto the strip along with this thing in the middle, whatever it's called. I then stabbed some holes using a pair of scissors into the faux leather and then cut out some small circles. I then filled in those holes with these little gold rivets I had. And we had a belt. I placed it around the middle of the vase, and once I had it where I wanted it, I used a little more epoxy to hold it in place. I popped in some more unnecessary fairy lights, and voila, there's my Santa vase. This one was definitely my favorite out of the two, and actually a lot easier to make, despite the challenges with the fur. Let me know what you think, or if you try this at home, what it turned out like. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the bell to get notified for my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching!